Welcome to Uncaged, a show that celebrates thought leadership from today's top business leaders. The program provides a voice to amazing executives from around the globe who are shaping the world of business today and mapping the path to the commerce of tomorrow. Today, we're speaking with James Johnson. Hey, James, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks a lot, Dan.
James, it's great to have you on the program, and I feel really blessed to speak to you. James has an amazing military career that we'll touch upon, but currently he is the president and CEO of Operation Gratitude. If you haven't heard of Operation Gratitude, it's an incredible organization. We'll go through all of the giving that they provide and really all of the thanks that we need to see, and certainly helping the mental health and well-being activities of our armed services. But before we get there, James, let's talk a little bit about yourself and your career.
Sure, you bet. Well, I grew up as a military brat, so not a surprise that I joined the military some years ago and served for several decades. And that my son is now serving too. So there's a bit of a military heritage in our family, sort of the family business now. I like to say my grandkids don't know it yet, but they're going to serve too. But when I was in the military, I did a lot of work in operations and then logistics. At the tail end of my career, I really focused on human resilience and the work to really uplift the spirits of those who are serving and increase their morale in a way that they feel connected to something really powerful, just as when they joined.
That's great. And I mean, clearly a broad career working on a million different things. But now you're at a great point in your career where you can work on something like Operation Gratitude. Tell me more about where the organization is today. And maybe for some of the listeners, tell the story a bit.
For sure. As I left the military, as I mentioned, my last assignment was really standing up the Human Resilience Directorate for the Air Force. And as I departed the Air Force, I was really continuing to look for places where I could serve, give back, and be a part of something really meaningful and larger than myself. So much like all those who serve, raise their hand to serve in our military and our first responder communities. And so as I was in my retired chapter, I was approached by an individual who I'd worked with in some other nonprofit work about the opportunity to serve as the CEO for Operation Gratitude. And the more I learned about Operation Gratitude, both the mission and the people, the two things that are most important, I think, for so many people when they go into some endeavor, I just learned that this was a really positive organization focused on really the well-being and resilience of those who raise their hand to serve and do some really hard things, that as they serve our communities and our nation.
So, James, we were talking before we started today a little bit of just the volume of the work that Operation Gratitude's now. It'd just be great to kind of go through that a bit.
You bet. So, Operation Gratitude's been around for about 20 years and started back in 2003. So this will be our 20th anniversary. Really excited about this year coming up. But as we look back at our origin story in 2003, Carolyn Blaszczyk, who's our founder, was volunteering in a military lounge in LA when a young soldier came through who was pretty distraught. His mother had passed away, his infant child had died before her, and his wife had left him. And so in that distress, he was talking to Carolyn about redeploying. And he said to her, I'm going back over there. I don't think I'm coming back this time. And I don't think it matters because no one cares anyway. And it was really in that moment that Operation Gratitude's mission was born, that how can anyone raise their hand to serve, potentially put their life in harm's way, and not believe that the American people care. And I really think that in that moment, he really represented all those who raised their hand to serve in that, we all have a story. We all go through ups and downs in our life. And for those who raise their hand to serve, they raise their hand to serve for years. It's not for days or weeks. It's not, hey, I don't feel like doing this job anymore. I'm going to go do something else. It's years of service and sacrifice. And so I really think that the mission focuses on all those who are in that, in that world where they've raised their hand. And she really represents all those volunteers. we have grateful that tens and hundreds of thousands of volunteers across the country that have joined us on the journey to say thank you to those individuals who are serving. And she really, I think, in that moment represented all of those volunteers. And so it just made great sense that that became a mission that has survived and thrived for this many years.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think it's really important, obviously, that we make sure that everyone out there that's serving, that we give thanks for them and thank them for their service. And certainly what Operation Gratitude provides is an incredible uplifting solution for that. But James, I mean, you are right at the epicenter of so many of the issues that the military is thinking about these days. I mean, I know that you still work on the diversity and inclusion issues. You're also obviously working on what I would say is a mental health issue here, which is, making sure that people feel valued and loved and building that kind of mental resilience that they need. I mean, tell me a little bit about what you're seeing today in terms of some of the military issues that we see out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a natural outgrowth for me to continue working with diversity, equity, inclusion efforts, as well as with the future generations of those who serve. Before I joined Operation Gratitude, I was doing some work with Mission Readiness. That's a organization that focuses on childhood education and healthcare, so that we have a future generation of individuals who are qualified to serve and that they're fit, mentally and physically fit to serve in various ways that our nation may need. And so in addition to the work that I'm doing with Operation Gratitude, there are other places where I feel compelled to roll up my sleeves and work shoulder to shoulder with others in an endeavor for our military ensure that the diversity, equity, inclusion is really a successful endeavor for us, that we are really growing, developing, retaining people of all walks of life. We like to say that diversity includes, it's a diverse way of thinking. It's diversity in all the typical things you think of, race, gender, and those things, but it's more, right? There's so many facets to who we are, and creating organizations that really appreciate who we are is important. I like to think of diversity, equity, inclusion as diversity is who we are, and every one of us is different, every single one of us. The equity is how we treat you, and the inclusion is how you feel about that. And I think that's really important, that people feel like they're a part of something special. That's typically why they join the military, is to be a part of something special. I used to work for a boss who said, people really care about two big things. One is they want to be a part of a team, right? Yeah. Something special. And the other one is that they want to feel that what they do matters, right? You go back to the story with that young soldier. And the other one is that I'm invested in not just the diversity, equity, inclusion on its own, but also the accession of military members. Our services need all the help they can get, I think, in terms of the future years of recruiting. And so when we think about, the entry into the military, whether that's at an academy or a service school, a ROTC, OTS, basic training boot camp, our services are really dependent upon the accession of great qualified individuals who raise their hand to serve and know that that's going to be years of service and sacrifice, but that their country really requires that. The two things I've learned over time are, one, that our country will always require brave men and women to raise their hand to serve, and two, that those people always need to know that what they do matters.
Yeah, that's very well stated. And I mean, tell me a little bit on where you think we are on some of those issues. I mean, I thought for sure the Air Force Academy would get a huge boost after that new Maverick movie. So
typically those, the societal influences have a big impact on individuals' decisions to join the military. And I think that as we look across the diverse landscape of our country, that individuals at that age, 17 to 24, 25, that are thinking about joining our military, they look at a lot of things. One of those they look at is how are veterans, current military treated And when they see something like Operation Gratitude, where our veterans, our current active duty military, reserve, guard members, those in law enforcement, first responders who raise their hand to serve, when they see how our nation treats those, honors those people who raise their hand, they're more likely to want to be a part of that experience. And so I would just tell you that right now, I think that the nation has a number of challenges in front of it when it comes to recruiting and retaining a really strong military. The fact that we're not at war, that sometimes the fact that our service members are deployed gets lost, that people don't really realize that we have, tens of thousands of service members who are deployed every day. Soldiers are boots on the ground somewhere in the world, could be in Africa or in the Middle East, in Europe, in the Pacific. And we have sailors and Marines always underway as well, and Coast Guardsmen, the Air Force flying far from their flagpole. And I think that sometimes that's lost because it's not in the news, because we're not in a kinetic, effort in active conflict, which is good. But I do think that it's important that we realize that those people that are still serving, their spirits, you can't really wait until you're in a conflict to say, thanks for your service and really want to bolster their spirits. I think it's really important for those people who are serving to always know that we have their back, that we support them and appreciate the fact that they joined and are doing their hard work.
Well, James, I completely agree. As we look forward into 2023 and on some of these issues, what are the priorities and where do you think we're going to see some progress?
Well, when you think about Operation Gratitude and where we've come from, one of the things we looked at was what is the vision for the future? And it really is tied back to that origin story, in that moment thinking, not only do I want this person to know that I care about what they're doing, but it's all those who serve to know that the American people care. That's really the vision. And so what that means for us is that every service member, first responder who joins the service of in their communities or for our nation, that they would receive a care package, and every care package would have a letter saying, thank you for starting this journey. That's well over 200,000 people every year. And then we would, every service member who deploys would get a care package that's unique to that experience. It's a bigger care package. It has a letter too saying, thank you for going far from home on our behalf. And then for those who are retiring veterans in that status would get a care package too. And those letters would say, thank you for the time that you invested on our behalf. We haven't forgotten what you did. Last year we did about 135,000 care packages. This year we will do upwards of 280,000 care packages. But the goal for those, the populations I just described, that's 1 million care packages a year. That's the future. That's why we just need more and more communities to sort of join us on the journey to say thank you to those who serve.
Well, let's kind of jump to that. If there's folks listening to this podcast or watching the webcast, how can they get involved and how can they support Operation Gratitude?
We get that question a lot. We really direct them to operationgratitude.com, which is our site that really outlines all the different ways that people can join us on the journey to say thank you. Whether you're an individual or with a small group, could be a classroom, could be a scout troop. You could be a part of a company. Maybe you're working in a local store or, at the sort of grassroots level. We have thousands and thousands of people that join us at our website to learn how they can get involved, whether it's writing letters or tying paracord bracelets or contributing to the care package itself, whether that's to the contents of the care package or whether that's to the shipping of the care packages to, these individuals who've raised their hand to serve, who are serving in our communities, or they're serving again far from home. And we ship, literally tens of thousands of care packages around the world to those individuals who raise their hand. One of the things I would highlight is, in addition to sort of the grassroots, everyday Americans who say, I'm looking for a really meaningful way to say thank you to those who serve. We have, I mentioned groups like the Scouts, or it could be the National Charity League, could be the Red Cross, could be a whole host of other folks who have organizations that support Operation Gratitude. We also have corporate America, companies across the country who want to say thank you to those who serve. And so in the care packages, you'll find some really high quality products that, companies want to say thank you in a meaningful way to those who are, far from home. And so you'll see Starbucks and Mars will have, sweet and salty snacks in there. The Girl Scouts provide us some of our best, product is, open that care package, you get those cookies, right? Girl Scout
Oh
cookies.
my God, that would be great, right?
It's an icon. It's an icon. And so many of the items that go in there are iconic when you think about, the partners that have joined us on this journey.
Well, I mean, it's been amazing to chat with you, James, on everything that you are working on, and certainly the success of Operation Gratitude and the continued growth. And there's an opportunity for so many communities, so many enterprises to get deeply involved and expand these efforts. Really, thank you for being on Uncaged today, and we look forward to having you back.
Well, thank you. Really appreciate the time, Ben.
Cheers.
Cheers.